So we have our kit here for the scrub caps that we're going to be making. First of all, you have your 5.5 inch piece of elastic that's already been cut for you in the package, as well as the pieces for your scrub cap. So there is 2 pieces of oval. They're actually already facing each other, wrong sides facing, and you have your one large piece that's going to be your main part of your cap. So what we're going to do first is we're going to fold this in half so that the short ends right sides together. So the short ends are together. If you need to pin it, you can do so, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. This seam right here, 1/4 inch. You're going to again back tack, a short back tack here, a few stitches, 1/4 inch to back tack there. So let's go to the machine. Alright, so we're going to sew our 1/4 inch seam here. So again, at the beginning, we do a small back tack, a few stitches, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way to the end. Make sure that the seams are together, and we back tack, and we clip our seams nice and clean, clipping our threads. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take it to the iron. We're going to open it out, and we're going to press this to one side, and then we're going to fold these together and press them together. So let's go to the iron. So now we're going to press these seams. We're going to press them all to one side, like that. And now we're going to fold wrong sides together. We're going to fold the whole thing wrong sides together. And we're going to match these seams up so that they are together. First of all, we start by matching our seam that we just made. We're going to hold that together, and then just take the whole thing, and we're going to press it flat. And just so that we don't have a crease, fold it again and press. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we have to make a cuff on this, a 2-inch cuff. So I'm going to mark my 2 inches. On both sides here. I happen to have this ruler, is a dressmaker's ruler, and it is exactly 2 inches wide, so I can use that. So I am now folding along that 2-inch line that I made. I'm going to make that 2-inch cuff. Okay, so there's my line, and I just make sure that the cuff is all 2 inches wide, and I'm going to press again just to hold that cuff in place. Give it a good press. Now we move over to our sewing machine. Okay, so we now have the band of the scrub cap that has the cuff folded. Now you're going to find the seam that you made, the first seam that you made, that's going to be the center back, and you're going to take a tape measure, and you're going to measure 3.5 inches from that seam out, and you're going to make a line. You can make a straight line down the cuff, and then another 3.5 inches on the other side of that seam line, and you're going to make a line there. So I've got my 2 lines, 3.5 inches from this center seam. And now we're going to put this under the machine, making sure not to catch the other side of the cap. And you're going to sew right at the edge here from this line to this line, back tacking at the beginning and the end of your seam. So we're just making a little bit of a casing to run our elastic. So we're going to start right at the edge, and we're just doing a straight line right to the edge there. And we clip our threads again. I always like to clip our threads as we go. It makes life easier. So now you've got the stitching from line to line, and you have a bit of a channel here, which is what we're going to do with the elastic. So we've got our 5.5 inch piece of elastic. We're going to take a safety pin, put it on the elastic, and we're going to run that elastic through this little channel that we've just made. Now you're going to run it through, and you're going to be careful that the end of the elastic here doesn't go past the first line that we've made, because we need to tack that elastic on that line. So I'm going to feel so that the elastic, right now my line is here and my elastic goes to about here. So I want to make sure that I can catch the elastic when I'm sewing. So the elastic is in there, and I'm going to do again just a simple stitch, and you're going to be again what you call back tacking a few times along that seam. So now we have caught the elastic in there. The pin is still in here. Now we're going to pull the elastic through to the other side. We can take the pin off, and again we're going to make sure that the elastic gets caught on this side of the stitch line, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just run a straight stitch back and forth a few times. This is just to secure the elastic to make sure that it does not pull out, and we're going to clip our seams. So now we have kind of an adjustable bit for our cap. Alright, next we're going to take our, this is the top of the scrub cap, and we're going to fold it in quarters. So we're folding it here, and I'm going to make a line. However you want to do it, you can do it with pins. Actually, let's do it with pins. So I'm going to pin my quarters. So fold it that way first, put a pin, and then I'm going to fold it this way and put my pins in. So now I have this divided into 4. We're going to then do the same to our band. So we know where our middle seam was, where we first started. So we're going to fold it in half, and we're going to put a pin right at that seam. So you know, and then we're going to line up that pin with the back seam to know where our 2 side quarters are here. And I'm going to put a pin on both of those markings here. Now we're going to fit the top of the cap onto this like that. Alright, so to do that we need to turn the cap inside out. So the cuff is now on the inside of your cap. You're going to take one of the pins, and you're going to sit this oval of the cap to the inside of your cap, and we are going to start actually at our back seam. We're going to put one of the long pieces of the oval to the back seam here, and I'm going to just pin all the 4 quarters to start. Pin there, then the next 2 that are lined up, we'll pin those together. Then the 2 front ones, we're going to pin those together. And then finally our 4th one, the side one, and we will pin those together. Now all we're gonna do is we're going to make sure that all these seams are lined up. So we're kind of just pulling it a little bit and using our pins and just pinning them all together, because we're going to then sew this top to our side band. So we're just pinning, and it should be pretty much the same size. You shouldn't have any puckers. And what I sometimes do is just kind of pull the two fabrics together so that they line up. Put as many pins as you think you need to make sure to hold everything together. And you're also trying to make sure that all of your edges line up too. You don't want anything too much different in your seam allowance, because you might end up missing some fabrics and end up with a hole somewhere. Okay, so I've got it all pinned, as you can see, and now we are just going to sew this together. The best way to sew it is to sew it so that your band is on the bed of your machine and you're sewing from the top. And we're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance again. So we're just gonna go around. I sew over my pins. I take that chance. If you don't want to, you can take the pins out just before you get to them. Take your time, sewing around 1/4 of an inch. Again, making sure that you're not getting any puckers. And I am back to the front, and I like to do 2 rows of seams just to make sure that it's secure. And as you're going along, try to make sure that you're not sewing the underneath is you're not sewing any other part of the cap. You're not catching any of the cap in your stitching here. So. Once you are done your 2 rounds, you don't even have to backstitch. You cut it, and I'll pull my pins out, and you have a scrub cap. Turn it right side out, and that's it. When you bring it, I will serge the inside, and there's your scrub cap.